physical wealth.
Hello. Today is February 17th, 2025. And before this episode, I did a really brief President's Day episode, just a little mental health check. It's called Mental Health for Perceived Betrayal, because there's a lot of things going on and going wrong. So I wanted to try to put something out there to help people, because we're blowing our minds out here. I'm just saying. So this is the Adroit Living session of the Erudition Network, and I like to talk here in this session of I volunteer my time to talk about mental health and let people understand and help them to make the correlation that mental health is physical wealth. I talk about sensitive topics that we are experiencing in current events in a holistic manner, so that it can improve our mental health as a first responder, as we ourselves being our own first responder, because a lot of times nobody knows what's wrong with you until you say, hey, I need some help. A lot of times that's the issue. So I did that video so that we can get a little bit of help, because I've seen so many signs that mental health is, so we can try to get a little bit more awareness, self-awareness, so we can self-correct and examine ourselves. But this episode is right now help. The information asymmetry in schools with the parents, the students, and the teachers. Let's talk about that, because we are seeing some changes in that atmosphere, and a lot of people are afraid, and they're fighting mentally in ways that a lot of people cannot see until it's too late. So let's talk about it a little bit, and let's try to get that right now help. Student-teacher interactions can be hindered because students can see teachers lack the ability to know what they're doing in ways which builds student confidence in teachers' ability for their knowledge, skills, ability to lead the class. But a lot of things that we're seeing right now in this current atmosphere is innately causing that kind of confusion, and the kids are scared because they don't have that stability. The teachers are scared too. The parents are scared too. The principals and heads of school, they're scared too. Everybody's afraid. So let's talk about it and try to get a little bit of help. When some teachers feel challenged by students' awareness to mistakes, which degrades students' confidence in teachers' knowledge, skills, and ability to lead the class, bigger problems arise. Some teachers are not certified, and I'm not judging. Okay, we're never judging. Some certified teachers are not good teachers. So there's that. Some focus is misguided via both the first one and the second one. And the focus should always be advancing students academically. So do you need to be a certified teacher to teach successfully? Well, let's look at Einstein. His mother raised a genius, and she wasn't a certifiable genius herself. So, there's that. And then you have people who Einstein, who was a certifiable genius, taught, and he did not produce certifiable geniuses thereafter. So there's that. Misdirection contributed to parent, student, teacher information asymmetry, hindering tracking academic success in real time. And it's been a major problem in public schooling for several decades, yet not so much that it totally prevents academic anomalies. However, it has greatly perverted the academic experience to the point innocent lives have been immediately lost in these current times. So we have seen the same pattern over decades and even centuries of time, But right now it's to a pivotal point where it's like, okay, we've plateaued and now we're about to go into a totally different, more complicated situation. And that's what we're seeing in these times. Previously, schools were able to develop a predictable trajectory, which provided an estimate number of people who would become a degenerate to society via academic records. Now, a lot of times in this current time, we're seeing those academic records actually go for as self-reporting of people's diverse communities, and they're using that information to hinder a lot of trust in these academic reports. But anyway, how so it's important to recognize these records and see what's going on with them. However, as a direct result of too many false reports and misguided finger pointing, we do not have a report which estimates: one, who will become a degenerate to society; two, who will be the best representative of their school or graduating class. We've seen that last year. Where we saw valedictorians who wanted to perform their speeches, and they were told they couldn't perform their speech. But anyway, and three, those records can't help us to understand who will snap mentally and become a fatal danger to everyone on campus, or not just campus, because we have seen doctoral students stray away from their campus and go elsewhere to inflict fatal danger to everyone in their vicinity. And four, we can't predict who will survive the brick and mortar academic experience. That's vital to future decisions and the decisions we're making right now for the future. And five, we can't predict the best ways to move forward because of this falsification of reports, academic reports. Families with school-aged children are not supported in owning a home library. If families at least had a full encyclopedia set, a science, math, and ELA small home library, it could make all the difference. I know, because a lot of homeschool communities, they have built their own little home library, and homeschooling has consistently been the most highest rated schooling method over centuries of time. It's just not the decades, not even current times. It's over centuries. I'm just saying. And this is how they did it. Tip one, you could use posters with diagrams of the world map in detail. You can use a human body poster and post those posters up there. And you can use math formula posters and ELA posters that would help if learners were just to see those posters every day when they're at home. It doesn't have to be, crowding your living space in common areas, but it would help. And it would even increase the parents and everybody else's ability to learn and adapt who are in the vicinity of these posters. Yes, I'm talking about facts, and this is free. So get it while it's getting good, But the posters serve as a positive, repetitive visual reinforcements, which are less annoying to those who don't want to repeat fundamentals as often as a learner may need, because needs vary per individual. Learning is a lot of repetition. And a lot of times people don't want to keep repeating themselves and repeating themselves and repeating themselves. I'm just saying. So when parents need a break from children asking why all the time, they can be redirected to revisit fundamental visuals or upgrade those visuals. So a lot of times people in the homeschooling community, they're like, man, I can't do this. I'm tired of this kid asking why. I'm tired of being repetitive. We've seen TikToks which have had people repeating the same question to the child, and the child unable to make the connection to give the right answer. And sometimes a lot of people make jokes out of it and everything to make light of it, but to show that it's more common of a problem than a lot of people give credit for. But if a learner exhibits retention of lessons, reward them with free time. A lot of times, a little bit of learning. Just be happy they learned a little bit. Did they spell their name right? Did they mix up the E and the A, and finally they got it right? Reward them. Like, when you're potty training a child, that's tedious and that's repetitive. But when they finally get that one time right, even if they peed on themselves on the way to the bathroom, or on the way to trying to pull their clothes down and they're in the bathroom, you still give them praise for that. So reward your students with free time. Free time is not the same as playtime. Both free time and playtime are times free from instruction, but playtime is mandatory, and free time is earned as a result of not needing instruction because academic goals were reached. So a lot of times, students in homeschooling, they excel beyond the expectation of the brick and mortar schools in their district because their positive reinforcements support their learning and adaptation to transpire faster because they're trying to earn that free time. In brick and mortar schools, you don't earn that free time the same way because there's a set structure and there's a curriculum which is implemented to the entire class or group. So it's a lot more difficult for people to get that free time and have it do what it should do when and do the same thing that it does in homeschooling. But rewards can be rewarding for everyone and encourage advancement in this way. So it's not necessarily just the free time for the child. It's free time for the parent because now you don't have to repeat or redirect. So now that free time is great for everybody, and y'all both are more motivated to keep earning that free time. If you falsely reward, you condition less urgency in advancing, so progression is more difficult. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of these brick and mortar public schools. They've been rewarded falsely, and a lot of times people are made fun of it, saying that they're participation awards and rewards for just showing up. I get it and I understand, but a lot of times you got to motivate people the best way you can, and we're all learning. There's no judgment, there's only learning. So learners don't need to be 100% on tests or recall every detail of a lesson to earn free time. 80% is enough because it may be the best the learner can do or exhibit in the moment. A lot of times learners are like, oh, I'm freaking out. Yeah, I don't like these lights, cameras, and the microphone. And it's like difficult and it makes me nervous. So I might not say the things that I want to say the way I want to say it. I'm not making those smooth transitions from one topic to the next. There's a whole lot that goes into it. But there you are. And you have to reward the good things that the students and the learners are doing. I'm just saying, what's happening is desensitizing the learners from test assessments by administering them daily. Because if we're constantly telling them, okay, testing, and we're kind of like making it fun, but making them aware that they're being tested, a lot of times we're doing that anyway, and we're just not classifying it or announcing it in that way. Anytime a learner is asked a question in real time, it's an example of what was learned, what they don't understand, etc. So simply calling it a test or assessment more frequently will desensitize such trigger words, leading to higher ratios of exhibiting academic success, or more accurately reporting learner success. A lot of times in homeschooling, we have been able to figure out the learning intricacies, and that's why we're so successful in homeschooling methods. But trying to make those homeschooling successes show up in the brick and mortar, or um, the platform that's assimilating to the brick and mortar schooling, is more difficult because it's the opposite of these things. So if you think about it, conversations are tests and assessments, because the moment someone engages in a conversation or communicates, their level of understanding is being evaluated. Have you ever talked to somebody and you didn't know how educated or uneducated they were until they opened their mouth? There it is. I'm just saying. Do you need to be a genius to raise a genius or teach a genius? No, you certainly do not. Nowadays, it's far easier for learners to become a genius than ever before. Imagine that. Repetition. It's like saying someone who does all the heavy lifting but gets none of the credit when people are giving thanks for their success. What caused your success? Well, repetition. But we don't say that. We'll either take the credit or give the credit to a really great teacher who was really dedicated and went above and beyond the call of duty. I'm just saying, the real answer is repetition. Learners are more effectively stimulated by things that's visual, audio, and physical, all at the same time. A lot of people are like, well, how do I get my learner to learn? You have to include all the methods, all the perception, sensory awarenesses, and they'll pick it up far faster than you just focusing on one method of encoding when you're taking this information in, especially when the information is new and difficult to learn. And sometimes students get stuck on a topic and they have to spend more time there. And if they're working at the same pace as other peers, they can miss out on the complete comprehension, and it could cause them to delay their advancement, being visible to show, to exhibit what they truly know and understand. Think about it like this. Kindergarten is very much all of those learning things. So try to make every lesson visually, a visual, audio, and physical lesson in the moment of learning for higher efficacy rates. Think about it like this. If you were to see how a kindergarten really excels so fast, oh, you're learning so many new things. You're a quick learner. This is why. Learners fully engaged to new things and quick to truly learn as a result. Imagine if it was all the time with every lesson. Talk about fully immersed, right? I'm just saying, it's not childish or just for people with learning difficulties. It's facts of increased learning and confidence and knowledge. A lot of times people are like, well, I don't need nobody to hold my hand like that. I'm just saying, so they don't necessarily get the assistance that they need. They're not getting the support and the foundation that leads to the expected outcome. Information asymmetry between student, parent, and teachers is normal. So don't be discouraged. Everybody has those moments where we get discouraged and we're like, I can't do this. I'm so discouraged. I'm so uninspired. I cannot keep going with this. These kids need to get somebody else to do it. Certified, uncertified, whatever. Teachers or educators, they're all experiencing that same problem. But the focus is on learners' comprehension. People are often frustrated in and with the learning process due to normal things like information asymmetry, repetition, trigger words, and their impacts. of words like test, assessment, and pass and fail. So it's normal. Hopefully, the information today will help with that. You don't need to be a genius, a know-it-all, or very good at leading when you're helping your child or learner learn or become a genius. All you need is love, time, and resources, and patience with your child and yourself. There's no set path that's perfect for everyone. There's no panacea to learning because everyone's encoding process is different. So the way individuals exhibit comprehension varies. So don't overemphasize the tracked percentage of learning comprehension. That's the way a lot of brick and mortar schools do. They're overemphasizing it mainly because they have to justify the funds that the government is paying and asking taxpayers to increase their taxes and things like that. I mentioned it in Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. It's available on Amazon, lulu.com, and you can ask for it wherever books are sold. Try to get that book because it has more than you know. But it's a small book and very easy to read. So anyway, because there's no set pattern and there's no set resources that's going to definitely get the outcome you're looking for, be patient with the child and yourself, or the learner and yourself, because a lot of times the person is not a child, but they're still learning. I'm a life learner, so there's that. And I'm a grown woman, so I'm just saying people got to be patient with me just like I have to be patient with them. There's no set path to perfection. So we have to remember that that's why we're being patient, because comprehension is the goal. It would be helpful if you invested in your child having a laptop. Now, these are the tools you might want to invest in. A laptop or a PC, maybe even both. A tablet, a cell phone, both a tablet and a cell phone, and a complete encyclopedia set and other materials, physical materials mentioned earlier you may want to rewind just for that. I don't know if you remember. But anyway, along with at least 2 different gaming console systems, a pet or an aquarium, and a schedule. You can loosely follow the schedule, but don't stray too often, because patterns improve ratios of reaching expectations. Why did I say that? Because a lot of times we're tracking success from patterns and schedules. Children don't come with instructions, yet a heads up is invaluable. So knowing some tools and uses for those tools will go a long way. So I'm doing this for free and giving you a heads up. Can you function without investing as I've suggested? Yeah, but it will be far more effort and less time aiding learners to work well independently and succeed if you were to follow my suggestions. My suggestions have multiple purposes and benefits, and is tracked to have higher success rates applicable to different learners. That means a lot of times people get classified as things that put them in the category of learners who have learning disabilities. I couldn't put it any better way. I tried to find a word and I couldn't think of it. But learning delays, special needs, people in the vulnerable communities. But they can learn, and we have seen it. We have seen people with cerebral palsy learn and graduate college, whereas one time in history, we didn't think that they could do that, and they were forever babyfied, and they were forever a baby because they didn't have the opportunity. They weren't included in the systems which innately were created to keep them out. I'm just saying, we've come so far. So these things are applicable to all learners, regardless of the labels. So generational application or general application will be effective despite knowledge, skills, and ability of the teachers and the learners if you take these suggestions. I'm just saying. Now, a breakdown of the materials that I suggested. Why do you need all those materials? Well, a lot of times those materials have significant history that aided geniuses becoming a genius. So what these newer things are just helpful because it cuts down a lot of the repetition and a lot of the tangible efforts that people are putting into it. So laptops and PCs, you know, why do you need those? So learning is more convenient and saving and tracking learning is easier and convenient. It's not about what you did, it's about what you can prove. You prove that you learn because you could pass an assessment, but you also have to track that this is why I can pass this assessment because I did this work. And where is this work at? It's on the PC. It's on the external hard drive, or maybe both. I'm just saying it's convenient. Get an external hard drive and emails to help store and track things because those things time step and it provides better and neater, less time consuming paths to track, store, and share the information. A lot of times you are going to be asked, what is your proof? Can you verify it? Yes, I can, because it's not only on the external hard drives, but it's also in email form. So you do need these tracking abilities, and it will turn around later to work for your good. Hi, Jackie. I appreciate you for coming. I love that new picture you got there. Nice profile pic. Why do you need the tablet? The tablet can be used as a device for learning while traveling. You may have a doctor's appointment, or you may be going to visit family, picking up dinner, grocery shopping, etc. Tablets are good for keeping safe learning materials handy and great for repetition and useful positive reinforcements to lessons. A lot of times people don't want to keep going over those lessons. You want the child to learn independently. You want to give that child something to say, hey, here, do this. And they just do it without you having to hover over them and linger in their environment. They have to learn to be independent learners anyway. So this will give them the edge and the step up that they need. Why do they need the cell phone? Well, the cell phone is for whatever the learner wants, and of course, calling people. It's also great for downtime, short breaks, playtime, free time, etc. But individual daily alarms for schedules. Previously, I mentioned about schedules. These phones are awesome with building the schedule and having an alarm for each schedule and a little note that tells the learner, this is what you're going to do. This is what you should be doing at this hour. So when that bell rings, it's triggering them. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. And that kind of repetition is necessary. It's not just for, young people and older people. It's good for everyone. Separate devices aid mental health and decreases learning fatigue. So these devices that I'm telling you about, don't take it lightly. Gaming devices. Why do you need a couple of gaming devices? Well, gaming devices like a gaming PC, laptop, or a couple of consoles, different consoles. Like you may have Xbox and PlayStation. You may have PlayStation and the Oculus. You may have different gaming systems because one may fail. We've seen that most recently, I think last week, where we saw a bunch of viral videos of people making fun that, the gaming PC, PlayStation went down. Gaming PC, it was the PlayStation. It went down, and a lot of people, escapism was gone, and they need that escapism. But anyway, so that's why you need multiple devices, because the proprietary stuff that's on there. There's not shared with other, it's not shared across the board. PlayStation is not sharing, they're gaming with Xbox, and Xbox not sharing with them, and Oculus. Everybody's independent. So you have to have different platforms to toggle between, because one may fail. Learners work hard. They need to play hard. Learning fatigue is real. Burnout is a major factor for forgetting lessons, not wanting to learn new information, etc. It's not just a burnout from working at a job at the workforce, but it's in a lot of things. We just don't, talk about it as much unless you're in that community. I represent diverse communities, so I get it from both in all those ends, where everybody's always talking about burnout and fatigue in different ways, whether it's because of organization work, school or academic work, or whether it's home life. Everybody's getting burnt out because, it was a pandemic and we all have to endure one another, and they were fatigued and burnt out from, having to deal with people. It's just, a common thing. No need to really freak out about it. Accept it, embrace it, find a way around it. A lot of people have found gaming is a way around it. But, there's that. It's not just those types of things, but, those things that require batteries, that goes a long way. But batteries, devices that require batteries, those batteries help space, over use of time. It helps you to space how much use you're getting out of these different escapisms or different devices. So you're not getting fatigue or burnout using those things. So books and board games are always great tools, and you will still need them. So investing in them will definitely help you in the long run. So you can also share. There's a lot of times where in brick and mortar schools, students think, this is my friend, let me go over their house and we can study together. Same thing with homeschooling. However, in homeschooling, it's a bit more deeper than that, because it's the whole family. It's families coming together like a big old family reunion, but you're not really family. And everybody's happy to see you, and y'all trading books, you trading information. It's called co-op learning, where one family may have the books that you would like to have but don't have, but they have it. So you don't have to spend the money to get it. Y'all just swap books and trade, and then trade back. And now you've saved money. But if you have a lot of kids, a lot of learners, you may want to invest in those materials and keep them. But lastly, having a pet. Why is that important? What we need a pet for? Well, having a pet or pets, to include aquariums, terrariums, hydroponic systems, and animals, are good for multiple academic and life lessons. You don't have to just have, an aquarium like you see in the background. In the background, I have fish, and I tried to integrate the artificial aquarium into a planted aquarium and grow plants. And those plants, what happens is, I didn't know it, but the plants die back and then they regrow in the new environment. So they adapt to their environment. And it's like, man, how many times is that going to happen before somebody feel like, man, I failed. This is not working out. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of life. And we're always learning. We're life learners. So we're learning these things. With aquariums, we're learning with pets like dogs and cats and water dragons. I had my sons had a Chinese water dragon. I didn't want to deal with no Chinese water dragon, but that made their learning so much better, because they had science projects, and that counted for science projects. They had academic writing papers that they had to write about different experiences that they had, and things that were significant to them in their life. And that covered so many genres of academic assignments, and the brick and mortar curriculums, academic curriculum, that it was like, man, this is paying for itself over and over and over again. It's awesome. So when you have even a terrarium where you're growing plants and things like that, that's helpful. Those hydroponic systems where people are growing food because they're doing indoor farming, that's NASA. Those are things that NASA is doing when they're trying to go to different planets and live there and build a environment where people can live there. People need to know how to have these hydroponic systems, these terrariums and aquariums, and how to care for pets and all these things. So it's not as elementary as you may think because it's being presented in an elementary way. So don't think of it that way. Think of it as, man, this is going to be more beneficial than I realize in this moment. So grab those tools, invest in these ways. I'm just saying, when learners need to write a paper, they can write about their pet or hobby. Pets and hobbies are also known to help with mental health and wellness in many ways. So that's another aspect that we haven't really, dived into because it's unethical studies. You can't really study that in the broader spectrum because of the APA standards for ethics and things that people would consider harmful and too long of a study, because those are longitudinal studies that we really do need to do, but we haven't really done it yet. I can dive deeper into each element mentioned, but that will take time. I'm trying to save you time and give you the succinct answers up front, because so many people are worried about academic learning and achievements, especially when we had the pandemic and a lot of learners are still having some bit of delay in their academic progress as a result of not being more malleable to adapt to a learning environment that was not brick and mortar experience. So a good example of what I did for my students, for them to excel, because I'm military affiliate, I'm military spouse. So my children, my husband, he would have to go on deployments and we would get deployed to different places. And because we were deployed in different places, each state has its own multiple districts, academic districts. And in those districts, each district had their own level of standard for learning. And oftentimes those levels of learning were subpar to Chicago, where my husband and I are from. It was like, man, they don't have to know nothing. But if they only know this much, they're going to be behind when we get stationed somewhere else or when we go back home after we retire. So with that being said, I had to find a different way. So we put more emphasis on teaching our children as a resource, as opposed to outsourcing their learning. So I developed a military homeschool community for my children. And that community has been so helpful. And there's even Facebook groups and things like that you can join. Military homeschoolers, homeschoolers for wherever you are located. They have homeschool groups for that. And they have Facebook groups where it's just Black family homeschoolers or whatever you want, you can find it. There's many homeschool groups you can join. But what I did was I purchased learning materials from a door-to-door salesman just before the birth of my first child. In the set was something I never saw before called the Book of Knowledge. And in that book of knowledge, I was reading, and it said a lot of things that was succinct. It didn't dive too deep, but it gave little bits of information So it went from A to B, or one book it just has B. So everything in there is about, things related to the letter B, and it reached across genre. So you had all the information in that book of knowledge that happened in that year. The group that I purchased it from was United Educators, but I also purchased books from young readers, scholastic young readers, and different other things, because those books were essential in building a library that was suitable for each age group. And I kept those books until for example, I had Sesame Street books, and it was made of cardboard, uh, in very bright pictures and things like that. And whenever I had like 4 kids, so the first kid, even though he was out of those elementary Sesame Street books, I still kept it for the next child and the next child and the next child. And then once each child was no longer, reading those Sesame Street books, I can donate those books to another homeschooling family who could benefit from those books, or even donate it to, I've been known to donate to organizations who help families without making them pay for the help. A lot of times you see people and you donate, and the people who are in need have to pay for the help, but they can't afford it. If they could, they'd probably go out there and get something, that caters more to their needs, as opposed to them just getting what they can get their hands on. I'm just saying, sometimes people don't want tethered or used books. Not that those books were tethered, but they were used. Kids are using them. Kids are touching them. Kids are feeling all over it and, looking through them and everything. So even if the books were really, really like new, it's still a matter of the fact that they were not new. Scholastic young readers would mail out books to the kids and in their name. So it was the first mail they had ever received. So they were really amped. And every night I would read those books to them. They would get 3 books. So that's a good avenue to go through to increase your your home library, and to keep up with modern books. It was affordable. We were military, active duty at what, E3, E2, which is a very, very low income. And we were able to do that. So you'd be able to do that if you work for McDonald's. And well, the current time we live in, it's hard to do anything. Price of eggs got people contemplating whether they're going to go outside the next day or not, because that takes energy, and energy you need food for. I'm just saying. So it's a different time. So maybe going to the thrift store to get these books, or leaning on communities that's giving it for free via trade back and forth, or allowing you to come into their home, or a location where you all are able to access together, a public place like a bookstore, where you don't necessarily have to buy the books, but you can use it as a cafe where you all can sit there and share the books and learn. That's a great idea. We've done that as well. Met some great people that's like family. So, and they're forever, we're forever connected, which is a lot different from the brick and mortar schools, because the separation and division is more perpetuated in that atmosphere than what the homeschool groups have, where they're more inclusive, and they're like, oh no, we're together, we're going to get through this, we got this. But in the brick and mortar schools, you see people more finger pointing. It's your fault that you don't get it. It's your fault that you don't have it. It's your fault that we have this information asymmetry. No, information asymmetry is common in everything. You can read my book or don't read it, but generational wealth, information asymmetry, and your success it helps aid your understanding of how to continue to build generational wealth and stop all the finger pointing, because the system is the system. A lot of people think, oh, well, homeschooling groups, they don't abide by these systems. I'm homeschooled and I did abide by those systems, but I didn't rely solely on those systems, because I purchased a home library where they have a complete encyclopedia. They have a complete encyclopedia for science, which gives illustrations for how to do science projects so the kids can just work well independently. And I don't have to even be bothered. I don't even have to be in the vicinity. And that's a blessing. My patience as I get older, with each kid, you were, a little bit older when you had the last kid, from when you had the last kid, and you continue to get older as they get older, and your patience may run out, and they're still young and they need your patience to be high, and you're like, no, I'm done. So all of this repetition is really, really good, because you have those books available, so you can redirect them to go to those books, go to that library, go to your tablet. Now everything's digital anyway, so go there, and there I can track that yes, you were dwelling on this topic a little bit longer than what I think you should, so let me update your resources for that, so that you will have an easier time or of a more in-depth comprehension. Hi, Sean Anthony. Thank you for coming. Feel free to ask questions. Everybody, please feel free to ask questions. So I also had this kit that it came with that aided homeschooling. It had the phonetic materials where you had a pen where you can touch the little different things. The learner could touch the little different things with the pen and learn the different things. I had a book, a mechanical book that had a mechanical pen, and it did the same thing where the learner could touch the pen and it would read books to the child according to how the child interacted with the book. It was completely immersive, lots of colors, lots of different colors, and it was so much fun. It was a power touch toy, the book, the electronic book. It was a big old hard case power touch toy, and my sons loved it, even without purchasing a book to keep giving them different materials to learn. It was all inclusive learning on its own, just the whole thing, and it was affordable. We paid less than $50 for that. But it was a time where people didn't place a great deal of emphasis on learning. So we got it for like $25. But $25 was a lot of money to us because, again, we were active duty military family who didn't get a lot of money from the career. So trying to, get those learning materials in from us having to pay for it was a sacrifice. It was a big sacrifice, but we wanted to keep having children, and we wanted to make sure that their education was prioritized, because moving from one deployment to another, it doesn't even have to be, state to state, because each state has its own district set normatives for the students to learn. So even if you've never left the state that you were born in, but you moved around within that state, each state had its own curriculum and own level of success and what they call success, what they define as success. So having these materials and investing in these tools that I've suggested is going to work wonders, miracles really, for you and your student, because you're investing in the future in a positive way, in a more definite way, as opposed to, just stocks and bonds and IRA and Roth IRAs and CDs and things like that. When we invest, we don't know what the outcome is going to be. But when we invest in our children, we are giving ourselves the most heads up that we can possibly give ourselves and our children. The kids didn't ask to be here. So we can at the very least invest in them enough so that as an independent person, they can excel and do whatever they want and you don't have to worry so much. And that's why I love homeschooling. I don't have to worry about my children. They can just go do whatever by the time they are in sixth grade. By the time they're in sixth grade, they can go and take a college entry exam and they might be able to pass it, but by eighth grade, definitely able to pass a college entry exam. And this is how. Yep, it took a lot of my interaction with them, meaning I had to praise them, I had to encourage them, I had to motivate them. I couldn't let them see me become discouraged, but I had to let them know my pathway. Yeah, I didn't like math either. Yep, I didn't like spelling either, but I learned this unique tool called mnemonics that helped me learn some really difficult things. I might do something crazy and sound stupid, but it's because of that traumatic title of stupid that aided my understanding and full comprehension because, yep, that sounded crazy. That's just stupid. That's just that's not even the right way to spell it. That's not even the right way to do the math. But it reminds you how to do what should be done and what's acceptable. So then you advance for sure and with confidence because now you're confident that you remember. And I know it's like crazy to, try to implement that, but that's just my thing. I'm always laughing. I'm very rarely ever really serious. And that helps me balance my mental health and everything else because you have schooling, you have organizational work, you have home life, and you got to take care of the car, you got to take care of the electric bill, the cable people are driving you insane because the internet's just never working properly, the phone isn't working properly, and then you have to have a cell phone, and the cell phone people are acting crazy, and your hotspot isn't acting right. You have all of these things that you're juggling all the time, and it's like, Lord, I need a break. And what you don't want to do is have to constantly repeat lessons to your students and your learners because it's like that information asymmetry is really shown because now they can't work well independently because you're absent. You're not helping them. And they're like, well, I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do it. But set these things up so that it can be a one-click thing. It can be okay, this is all you have to do. And that makes it a lot easier. And then when you're watching them, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that you knew how to do that. I had one of my students who was homeschooling, and he was like really excelling. And I was keeping an eye on him, but I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't get involved in what he was doing. Amen. A stress-free life is free good. Yeah, I know, right, Sean Anthony? A stress-free life is a good life. You said it. But the kid was doing something I didn't know he knew how to do. He was getting into programs and learning in a more in-depth way than I actually aided him to learn. And when I saw this, I was like, that's success. That's learning comprehension that you can't assess for, you can't test for. You have to witness it to know it. And then when you are witnessing it, you tell the learner, hey, I didn't teach you that. How did you know that? And then you praise them. You say, good job. That's great. Now let me test you on what you know. And always frequently saying test, assessment, pass, fail. That aids them to be desensitized to triggers that would hinder or even pervert learning. So try to, incorporate these suggestions in ways that specifically cater to each individual learner. Just because all the kids are yours and you're teaching all the kids doesn't mean that each one of those kids are learning in the same way. So be unique. Even if you had twins or triplets or more kids, they're all unique and you have to treat them in different ways to get the same outcome and sometimes an even better outcome, outcomes that you didn't expect. For example, my firstborn, he was reading and writing by the age of 2. I was, like I said, I purchased those homeschooling materials before he was born so that I would have it readily available. But I was doing word search puzzles while I was pregnant. I was listening to my gospel music and inspirational songs and those vibrations from the sound waves and, that atmosphere mood change really helped. And then I was reading and I was, learning things, trying to do little things. I didn't want to do a whole lot of learning. So the word search puzzles really helped because it was thinking, but it was complex enough so that I was learning at the same time. So those brain synapses that were firing off for me was also firing off for the baby I was carrying and helping them. I know that's weird to think, but if you think about it, if there could ever really be a study that can verify that, you might find that yes, that's what's happening. The brain synapses in the mom is transferring to the brain synapses and development of the baby, and that's what makes that reading to them in the womb effective. But there are studies that show that reading to your baby in the womb is effective, but they don't really know and can't really pinpoint why and how. What you say, Sean Anthony? True, but the same method may not always work twice. Yeah, it might not work twice, but there's the photomicrotribalism. I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that right, which leaves a little bit of each child in the womb. That's a bit of the mom and the last child. So you just might have more success rate or a higher success rate with each child born. I don't know if you come from a big family or not, but sometimes the first child seems to be like, okay, he's smart, but that child is a freaking genius. And then you have another child that you're looking at that child like, oh my God, those other two, you put those other two to shame. And then another child, and then you have the baby, and that baby is like the most smartest one of them all because everybody's pouring into that baby, and via photomicrotribalism of that essence from each one of those children that was left there, that child is benefiting from. Watch Eddie's Thursday shows where he's talked about photomicrotribalism. I know I'm probably saying it wrong because I see the time and I'm out of time, and it makes me more nervous. But go and look into that. A lot of times we are overstressed because we don't understand information asymmetry and how the brain really works. And the reason why information asymmetry is always going to be there. We just have to work with it. And the suggestions that I gave in this video are going to help you a long way. Even if you continue to participate in the brick and mortar system, you can still use these things. Check out my other videos where I showed you and I talked about how some people who allow their children to participate in the brick and mortar educational system still on the side homeschool the children, and those children we talk about today as historical figures of poems like and events like satire. People, the person who created satire, go back and watch those videos because an hour is a long time, but it's not enough time to talk about everything. So go back and watch those videos, and remember, it's free. And you can go and get that information and use it. And the things that you really have to pay for, go and spend that little money and invest and consider it a high return because it's effective in more ways than you are aware of in the moment. And it's because mental health is physical wealth. And this is how we do it. All right. That's my show. See you next episode. Mental health is physical wealth.